If you have wondered how to find the next billion-dollar idea, well, I might have an answer for you. This is a reminder that sometimes you don't have to overthink it. This company put olive oil in a plastic squeezable bottle and literally made hundreds of millions of dollars doing it. Well, I mean, there's more to that. But if you needed proof that idea is not the most important part of the business, here it is. Because what made Graza tons of money is not the olive oil, it's their brand, it's their marketing, that's their whole shtick, and we're going to dissect exactly how they did it. Picture this. Olive oil aisle. Somewhere fancy like Whole Foods. I need to really put this in. On one end, glass bottles with golden caps, Tuscan villas on the label, and fonts that probably haven't changed since 1987. And on the other hand, those transparent plastic bottles that were designed for someone who just heard olive oil is healthier than canola oil and wants the cheapest way to get it. Two different groups of products and two very different groups of customers. Zero overlap. And then Graza. Is it Graza? Graza walks in. A squeeze bottle that somehow looks like both and neither at the same time. Yet somehow, that brand becomes the hottest thing in olive oil. Meet Andrew Benin, the guy who did this. Andrew Benin is not a chef, he's not some sort of a Spanish olive oil farmer, he's not some Italian nonno who's been pressing olives since before your parents were born. He is a brand guy, a marketing guy, the kind of person who looks at a category and asks, who is this actually for and why does it feel inaccessible? Before Graza, Andrew worked at some of the most kinda popular DTC startups of the last decade that I'm sure most of us have heard of, but we're not customers of. Like Warby Parker, Casper, Magic Spoon, Aura, different categories, different products, but the same underlying playbook. Take something ordinary, wrap it in a nice, clean aesthetic, charge a premium, and sell the identity as much as the object. By the time he was ready to start something new of his own, someone who probably wants to feel like they made a sophisticated choice without doing any research, pretty much. He just needed the right product to put that experience to work. He co-founded Graza in 2022 with a Spanish olive oil producer because, to be fair, the olive oil itself had to be actually good. They sourced from Spain, specifically using Picual olives. And the product does get solid reviews from people who know olive oil. It is in fact actual olive oil. But here's the thing, olive oil was never the product. The product was the brand. And that's pretty specific. That Andrew guy, he made that bet very intentionally from the beginning. Okay, you might ask then, what is Graza? So Graza sells only 2 SKUs. That is pretty shocking to me. Two products. Sizzle for cooking. You use this when you're sauteing or roasting, putting heat on things. And drizzle for finishing. The one that you put on top of salads and burratas and all of those fancy things. Both of these oils come in these green squeeze bottles with a font that looks like someone wrote on them with a Sharpie. The branding is aggressively casual, I would say. There is no gold leaf or crest or no Italian countryside imagery. The bottle looks like it belongs next to the ketchup at a burger stand, if I'm being honest. And the names, Sizzle and Drizzle, cute, fun, short, memorable, great. These are not the names of a 200-year-old European olive oil house that I typically tend to buy. These are the names a brand guy gives products when he wants people to immediately understand the use case without reading a single sentence. I mean, most premium food products make you earn the knowledge of how to use them. Graza, on the other hand, hands it to you for free and sort of makes it feel fun. Okay, let's also address this part. The plastic bottle thing. To me, that is the most insane part of the whole business and the whole story, to be honest. Especially since that's their whole shtick, that's their product differentiator. Real olive oil comes in dark glass, they say. That's like the rule number 1. Plastic can leach into the oil. That's all I kept hearing. Plastic doesn't protect from light. Plastic is what the cheap stuff comes in. So Graza is selling their premium oil in plastic. And not just any plastic, a squeeze bottle, the kind you associate with sriracha or ketchup or mustard or the honey bear in the cabinet that you haven't touched in 3 years. The self-respecting people, the Southern Europeans of it all, the chefs or whatever, when they cook for themselves, they would never use plastic bottle olive oil. The Spanish would just lose their minds. The Greek probably also would lose their minds. And definitely those Italians. You know how they are. Even I, someone who knows nothing about olive oil, knows that olive oil in plastic is supposed to be a red flag you avoid. And the thing with Graza is they decided that those people are not their customers. And that thing is quite important here. Now the question is, who is actually buying the stuff? This is the part that nobody really talks about, but it's the whole business. Graza did not target the existing olive oil consumer. They didn't go after Italian import enthusiasts or the keto person with the $80 bottle on their counter, the chef who sources their olives from a specific Sicilian hillside or whatever. Those people are not their customer. Those people will tell you what's wrong with olive oil in plastic for hours. Graza's customer is someone else entirely. Let's call them Kyle and Jessica. Kyle eats lunch at Cava 3 days a week. He's probably a finance bro or a tech guy. Kyle has a Vitamix, but mostly uses it for smoothies. Kyle just got into cooking properly because he watched a few cooking videos and now he wants something to drizzle over his steak. Kyle doesn't want to go down the olive oil rabbit hole. He probably just wants to pick up something that looks cool on his counter and feel like a competent adult. Jessica saw someone on TikTok put olive oil on their ice cream and was like, oh my god, I need to try that. Jessica wants the bottle that looks like it was made exactly for that. She is not reading tasting notes for the olive oil. Jessica is buying the one with the good packaging. These are people who eat well, spend money on food, follow food trends, but were never really spoken to by the olive oil category gods. The category was too serious, too intimidating, perhaps too European. And Graza made olive oil feel like a lifestyle accessory. Let me talk about the branding for a second, because I feel like that's the part that is kind of like dismissed, because the branding itself is not very serious, it's not very elegant and all of those things. I think that somehow is perceived as like unintentional or silly or just unserious when that's their whole vibe. That dark forest green, the Sharpie style font, the minimal copy, the squeeze bottle silhouette, together they create something that's paradoxical. It is supposed to look cheap, but it looks sort of cheap and premium at the same time. It looks like it's not even trying. I mean, isn't that the whole thing with the new generation? From what I recall, this is something that designers call ugly cool. And it's been dominant aesthetic in DTC food brands for about a decade, I would say. Look at, for example, Fishwife, or Momofuku, or Diaspora. It's the aesthetic of we're so confident in our product, we don't need a fancy label. I assume it signals authenticity. The psychology here is real. When something looks too designed, like gold leaf, classical typography, old world imagery, it creates distance. That bottle is very Instagrammable, I would say. This is not an accident. Every aesthetic choice that Graza made was consciously or not optimized for social media sharing. The product was designed to be seen on someone else's counter and make you want it. We're talking about packaging, we're talking about colors and all of those things, and this is where the business side of things gets a little bit more interesting. Graza worked with a branding agency called Gander. Gander, a New York shop known for doing the visual identity for exactly this kind of elevated everyday food brands. And this collaboration is worth understanding because it illustrates something fundamental about modern DTC brands. For a brand like Graza, there is no patented formula. There is no proprietary extraction process. The olive oil itself, as good as these influencers make it seem to be, can be copied, I am sure the same olive oil is somewhere else in a different bottle at the same grocery store. But what cannot be exactly copied, it's the brand equity, the recognition, the aesthetic, the cultural positioning. And they built something that looks effortless but actually has so many intentional decisions in their design and their branding. They made so many deliberate choices that would affect how the branding would look like for years to come. I mean, the squeeze bottle alone communicates that this is a kitchen tool and it's not as serious as glass. It's not supposed to be a museum piece. It's supposed to be used. It's supposed to be taken photos of. All of that lands in a half a second that you see it on the shelf. And Graza really understood this. We talked about the story, we talked about the founder, we talked about the branding and all of those things. But now let's get to the part of how Graza became popular. I don't know about you, I do spend serious hours on TikTok. I am ashamed, well, half ashamed to admit that. I distinctly remember that day when I was scrolling TikTok, per usual, and I saw a video of someone eating ice cream with olive oil. When I tell you that was sort of disgusting, because ice cream is made out of fats and stuff like that, and then you add olive oil on top of that fat. To me, that was just a little confusing, but at the same time, there was a sort of a curiosity spark as to how would it taste? Like, would it taste good? I don't know. Like, I didn't immediately dismiss it. I remember like, Now, combine that beautiful Instagrammable product with, here comes the buzzword, influencer strategy. Graza got into heads of food creators pretty early. We're talking about the people who make what I eat in a day content, or cooking TikToks, or cozy kitchen aesthetic reels. The squeeze bottle format was basically made for a video. The product was engineered, intentionally or not, to be demonstration friendly. And here's the thing about food influencers. Their audience is exactly Kyle and Jessica. People who are sorta kinda aspirationally into food, but aren't professionals or enthusiasts. People who want to cook better and look good doing it. And when their favorite creator is squeezing Graza over pasta, Kyle doesn't really see an ad. He sees a life hack. He sees something that he wants to have. This kind of influencer seeding with a strong, organic, social content and a clear visual identity is pretty solid chapter from any DTC playbook. It's definitely not new, but Graza executed it cleanly and at the right moment, just when nobody was even thinking of olive oil. Now, none of it could happen without some Benjamin Franklins. Probably a lot of some Benjamin Franklins. Probably the most boring aspect of the whole story for people in general, but to me, the whole VC portion of everything is incredibly interesting because I am kind of curious in the psychology of how venture capitalists make decisions outside the spreadsheets, the numbers, and all of that stuff. Like, how do they know? Or I guess, how do they hope that the company will blow up? Graza raised venture capital. It reported $5 million in a seed round. Naturally, someone who's not really aware with startup environment, all of those things, would ask, why would Graza even need a venture capital? That doesn't make sense, it's an olive oil company. And the answer is, it probably doesn't. If it just wants to be a nice olive oil company, but if the goal is to become a lifestyle brand, get into every Whole Foods and Erewhon and Target, build out a full product line, and probably get acquired by Unilever or Cisco or another private equity firm, then you need to move fast and spend money, a lot of money. This is the exact same playbook as Poppi and Smart Sweets and Oatly and every other trendy food and beverage brand that raised VC in the last 10 years. The end game is almost never we want to be an independent olive oil company forever. The end game is build brand equity fast enough that a big CPG company will pay a significant multiple to acquire you and plug you into their distribution network. Look at Poppi. Poppi sold to Pepsi for reportedly $1.65 billion. Why did I say 65? $1.65 billion. That's the dream. That's what you're building towards when you raise venture money. At least in my opinion, it looks like that's the end goal. But here's the most interesting thing in the whole Graza thing. We are in 2026, right? I scroll their social media and I just want to see what they post and things like that. And in their comments, the top comment is always something about why is the olive oil in plastic bottles? So we came all the way back to square one. I mean, they do have a valid point, but that's their whole shtick. Like, how can they even answer to that? They do give a generic answer saying that our blah 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 is blah blah blah, so for blah blah blah, and by Graza. But now what they are doing is, you guessed it right, they are making olive oil in glass bottles. So Graza did two things. First, they introduced can refills, so you can pour that olive oil into your original squeeze bottle and keep using it, which is genuinely the circular economy play, I guess, that they get credit for. Then separately, they started selling glass bottles, just sitting right there next to the squeeze bottle as an alternative. And that second move is actually a bit more interesting than it sounds, because they didn't abandon the plastic, they didn't issue an apology, they just quietly added plastic as an option and let people self-select. The squeeze bottle stays on the side, same positioning. Glass is there if you want it now. There wasn't a big announcement or a crazy huge thing. In my opinion, that is the confident brand move. Most companies would probably turn the comments off, but Graza basically shrugged and said, "Here, damn." I mean, people are asking for it, and at this point, they already built equity, they already have a customer base, they already have, good olive oil, allegedly. Why not just give in and make them in glass bottles and satisfy that portion of the crowd? They listen to potential customers, some might even call them haters, and absorb the criticism without letting it rewrite their identity. The original customer still gets the bottle that they fell in love with, and the more skeptical customer, hater, gets something too. As we say, they took two rabbits with one bullet. So the question I keep coming back to, is this whole Graza thing a trend? Or is this going to be a huge company, a huge brand? It's gonna be sold worldwide in every single grocery store. It's gonna be an institution. They're gonna have, sponsorships for tournaments. They're gonna have ads on TV every 5 seconds. Or are we not gonna hear about Graza in about 5 years? Because there is a difference. A trendy brand burns bright, gets acquired, and becomes a footnote in a big CPG company's portfolio. A generational brand, a Heinz, a Tabasco, a San Pellegrino, becomes the default. It stops being a choice and starts being the assumption, the go-to. Like, I don't think I would buy any other ketchup other than Heinz. I don't know why. It's the psychology. After all of this, here's what I think of Graza now. There are lots of companies and there are lots of startups, right? And most of them, they don't succeed. And Graza did. So clearly they're doing something, and probably a lot of things right. Even if I'm personally not a fan of the product, I can definitely see what they did here. They gave them something that they didn't know they were allowed to want. That Kyle, that Jessica, probably wouldn't even consider buying extra virgin olive oil, that's made in Greece or whatever is the new rule in the olive oil. They found that person. I mean, that's pretty much what any brand should do. They need to find their customer. And not only they found their customer, they also found a customer that is very loud on social media talking about Graza for $3.99. Whether the brand survives, grows fast, grows slow, gets acquired, gets whatever, it's not the point. The point is Graza succeeded. Graza did something that a lot of brands just simply cannot do, even a lot of the mature brands that are just surviving based off of reputation. Even if they just put olive oil in plastic squeezable bottles. Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do this?